and also have a good understanding of what voluntary products they would need to offer in order to have this system be a very low cost or at no cost to them. So maybe in addition to the demo, you can kind of outline what those requirements would be as well. Mark, is there, and Sarah, is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so Scott, we'll just turn it over to you then.
Okay, thank you. So yes, I did a demo, I think it was sometime last year, maybe around this time, and nothing's changed with the system. Actually, a couple things have changed. They've got a couple things have improved with the system that we didn't have options for before, and I'll go over that. So with the system that we use is called Solarix. It is out of McKinney, Texas. They've been in business for 20 years. They have millions of employees on the platform already, and it is our primary enrollment tool as well. We're a technology provider, so we build the Solarix case internally with our team of developers, and they have many years of experience with this, with hundreds of groups of ours. So we control everything internally, which is nice because, you know, if you need a change done, you don't have to pull a help desk ticket with Solarix. We just do it ourselves. The system has two sides. There's an administrative side, and of course, there's an employee self-service side. So it's totally up to you as to what you want to allow the employees to do. They can go in, log in self-service, do the entire enrollment themselves, or you can do it for them, or it can be enrollers. We have an enrollment team as well. We can do on-site enrollments or call center enrollments. Those are also options. But the admin side, I'm going to show you here today because it has some more functions than just the self-service side does. So when you log into the system, this is just a demo. So we have just our logo here, and it puts you onto a dashboard. The dashboard gives you a synopsis of the plans that are in the system, as well as the enrollment status of every employee. You can see that we use this as a tool actually to monitor the enrollment to make sure everyone goes through. So we can see we have 39 complete, some incompletes, so they started but they didn't finish, and a couple people that have not started yet. There's also very good reporting that's all done in Excel in Solarix that I can get out of this that will identify these employees by name and location as well. So it's, again, a good tool to use to manage the enrollment process to make sure everyone goes through. On the left side here, we have a task bar, or a search bar rather, where I can pull up an employee by first name, last name, partial, social, lots of criteria there. And then also on the dashboard, in the dashboard and also within each employee's record is a forms library. So this is a place where we can put plan documents, brochures, any compliance disclosure notices you want to put out there to be made available to the employee. They can be put out there on the forms library. When the employee logs into, if they have access to log into their site, you know, it's password protected. So everything is secure behind the login there, all of your information. So additionally, in the forms library within the employee's record, there will also be the latest confirmation form. So once an employee goes through the enrollment, the confirmation form is generated, and it identifies each product they have enrolled in or waived, the cost, the employer contributions, if you want that shown, and the total. And I'll show you a sample of that later. So forms library, very easy to upload documents there. The whole system, the hard-coded information in the system can be moved over to Spanish with a click of a button, including in the employee self-service login module as well. So the hard-coded information, at least, can be made in Spanish. So again, this is just a demo, so I just wanted to show you how to kind of get through the system, navigate it. It's very simple. I'm actually a builder, so I have a lot more access than you would have. But if you go to enrollment and new employee, for example, this is how, on a one-off basis, you would get a new employee into the system. You basically just key in their information, their employment information, their address, phone number, etc., and then create the employee. So very simple on a one-off basis. As a whole, prior to enrollment starting, we'll take a census. We have a very specific template that loads up in the system that I'll show you later. But that's a very simple process to get loaded. The reporting in the system, like I said, is very robust. Everything that's in the system is able to be produced on a report of some kind. In most cases, because we're delivering the data on the back end to all of your carriers and to payroll, there's no need for you to pull in our reports, but you can if you want to. One report that is most common is an activity report that shows you on a monthly basis, for example, the activity that took place in the prior month. So you can make sure that that new hire actually did go in and enroll. Usually the reporting can be scheduled to be delivered to you on any frequency. So if you wanted to see that activity report once a month, 5 days before the end of the month, we can schedule that to be delivered to your inbox. So you don't even have to pull them, actually. We'll have them set up for you. And the reporting is actually the function within the system of how we actually deliver the data to your carriers. And we'll get into how we do that in a second here. So if I go back to enrollment and employees, and there's my search bar again, but this gives me access to everyone. I can use the search bar in the front, but this gives me more access, basically. So I've got a test employee in here. This is my test person I use all the time. If I hover over the social, I get the full social. And then it has location, pay group, and then their current status is complete, but I can change that. If I click on the name of the employee, it takes me into their record. Now, only an administrator can do this. You don't want employees accessing their own data here. So the first thing I'm going to do is reset them because I was just in here before. So that just reset them from complete to not begun. The tabs at the top, because I'm an administrator, I can do anything with this employee. So I can use the tabs at the top. If I want to change their status, I can use the drop down here and terminate the employee. If I terminate the employee, it's going to put in today's date as the termination date, but I can backdate or future date that. That data, once I hit save at the bottom, that will go out on the next file, which is usually weekly, to all the carriers and to payroll. So it's a very simple process to add an employee or terminate someone. I'm going to make them active again. And please stop me at any time if you have questions about this. If I want to process a qualified life event, I click on life event, choose the reason for the life event. We use this enable enrollment manually a lot of times. And then you just put in the data. So they can enroll, if they're doing self-service, let's say they've had a life event, they've produced the required documentation to you, and you'll give them, a week to complete it. So you'll put the date in here, the forced effective date, which you can do. And then you can select the plans that you want the employee to be able to change. So if it's just a medical plan, it's just a medical plan. If you want them to only be able to change the medical plan and only the tier of the medical plan, they have to stay on the same plan they're on. We've had some employers do that. Then you just check that box as well. And then you can unlock this and then have the employee go make the change, or you can actually click on re-enroll and you can go make the change for the employee. So very simple to use. And I'm showing you this demo, of course, but this is just a demo. We're going to assign an account manager that walks you through this more thoroughly.
Scott, 2 questions. How customizable is that, to our needs? And, you talked about...
Go ahead.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Well, question 1, how customizable is this to fit plan models in our procedural processes? And number 2, is there flexibility on how often you want to download data, and have it communicating back into our HRIS system?
Right. So the answer to both of those is yes, and very flexible. So The system is very customizable. There's some hard-coded things in here, but we're going to build this system specific to your company. So whatever your rates and rules and contributions and plan designs and so on, that's how we build the system based on your specs. The frequency and the delivery type and method of all of those files is totally up to you. Most carriers want a file on a weekly basis. That we've seen, at least. We've had situations, though, where I will say that TPA was administering the medical plan, and because of the movement of the group, it was a larger group with a lot of changes, they asked for a file daily, which we did. It's very simple. It's a click of a button to set that up.
Well, if carriers want it weekly, which is maybe fine, maybe we want to update our HRIS payroll system nightly.
Sure.
We can have variables.
We can pass over it. Yeah, we can do all of that. Who do you use for payroll?
We do it ourselves with UltiPro.
UltiPro. Okay. So not only can we deliver that to you on any frequency that you want, if there's a template that we can get, that we can customize the template so that it can load straight into your system. That will be the ideal situation.
Yeah.
But yes, we can deliver it in any frequency.
Okay.
All right. So the system is also a system of records. So it tracks any movement that's done within the system. So if I go to sessions, this is my test version, of course, but I'm in here a lot making changes, and it tracks all of that, who did it and what time they did it and so on. The events history is very similar as well. It shows who was in here, what they did, etc. It doesn't delete any data at all. In fact, if I go to the coverage tab, this shows me in a snapshot what this employee has today in one little snapshot here. It also shows me who did it and when it was done for that latest change. But it also shows me the coverage history. If I click on this little box here, show coverage history, it shows me what this employee previously had. Now, this is my test version, so I'm in here quite a bit. But you can see that the data is still retained. It's stricken through, but it's not deleted. And the current option is shown there. So it's good for historical purposes. Let's see. So coverage tab, contact information. Beneficiaries are housed here, of course. Carriers don't usually take beneficiary information, but it's here for you to access if needed. Forms, inside the forms tab, we have the confirmation form. So I told you that every time an employee finishes their record, a new confirmation form is generated. Well, obviously my test employee has a bunch of them. The form is here. These forms also, during the setup process, we can have these emailed to the employee after they enroll. We can also batch print them or batch PDF them for you if you'd like to have a copy. But they're also within the employee's record here. You can see it just has the information, the plan, the product name, if they waived or enrolled in it, the coverage tier, benefit amount, deductions. Now we can show or hide employer contributions, both here and in the system. Some employers don't want to show it, some do. Pre-tax, post-tax, and then down at the bottom we've got the verbiage for payroll deduction authorization and the total. Everything that's done in the system is also a PDF. It's done in PDF, so that it can be downloaded or printed right from the system as well. And then back to the employment tab is where we started. So adding a new hire, terminating someone, and processing a life event, all very simple, straightforward. Again, our account manager, if you decide to move with us, our account manager is assigned to you and dedicated to you throughout the year as well. So it's not just assistance for open enrollment. They're going to be there if you have questions about how to use the system. Also, post-enrollment, we actually do a training with you that is recorded, more in-depth than what I'm doing here, to get you comfortable with using the system as an administrator. If I click on enroll, I'm going to actually go into the employee's record. If I had logged in self-service as the employee, this will be the first screen I see. Now, again, just a demo, but we can put any kind of custom verbiage in here that you want, a letter from the CEO, whatever you want to do here. It'll have your logo, your look and feel, your color scheme. Notice that inside the employee's record, I have my own forms library, and I have my English and Spanish toggle button as well. The system is very customizable. So we can and have inserted videos, hyperlinks to link out to other documents. We've inserted documents in here. We have some employers that do a smoker tobacco surcharge. So there's that affidavit that pops up as they go through the process. We have others that have spousal surcharges and basically very customizable, as I mentioned before. These are hyperlinks on the right-hand side. I can just click on these if I wanted to see what the rate was for the dental plan. But otherwise, every screen tells you what to do. Just click next. It's basically a next process. Being a demo, it has the red writing that says what I just said. We can insert any kind of communication pieces you want. Now, this data is data that we received from the census and uploaded. We usually leave these fields unlocked, but still required, so that employees can update their information. They don't always run to HR with the latest address and phone number. If we collect an email address at time of enrollment, like I said before, we can set the system up to deliver the confirmation form to the employee. The system also has the ability, if you choose, to do kind of a welcome, it's called an invitation to enroll. It can be delivered via email or via text message to the employees, notifying them it's time for open enrollment. That's also custom verbiage, whatever you want to put. It's time for open enrollment. Here's how to go online to enroll, or whatever the process will be. That's optional, but that can be done pre-enrollment as often as you want until the enrollment starts, whatever you want to do. Also for new hires, we can do the same process. Welcome new hire. Here's how to get enrolled. And that message can be set up to go until they hit their eligibility date. Dependents. So we can load dependent information into the system. It's on the census template, which I'll cover. It has to be in a specific format, but it can be uploaded. If we don't get it, it's very clear. You click on the add dependent and you type in their information. And then we get to the benefits screen. So on the right-hand side, we have kind of a running tally where we have the status of each product. We have the total cost per pay period for employer costs, if you want that to be shown, pre-tax and post-tax, and total cost per pay period. So as we're going through the enrollment process, the employee can see how much they're spending. If I click on the review tab here, these are just some sample communication pieces that just says that, we can put customized materials in here. We like to, especially in a self-service environment, insert a page or two about the medical plan, about the dental plan, and so on. This next page is actually a better description of something you want to insert. You don't want to put 30-page plan documents, but a summary like this is nice for the employee to have as reference. So it shows the two plan options. When you hit next, it takes you into the plans. It would take you into the plans, except Solarix added a new feature recently. This is a medical decision tool. This is totally optional. We can turn this feature off, but I want to show it to you real quick. If you have multiple medical plans, it asks a series of basic questions to the employee. And because we know the details of the plans, we know the copay, deductibles, co-insurance, it can steer them or recommend a plan for them that's best for them based on their answers. And what it's looking for is the least out-of-pocket expense. So who would you like to cover? How many primary doctor visits do you anticipate? How many specialist visits? How many prescriptions? Any medical procedures? I hope not. And then emergency room visits. You don't really know, but it gives you a ballpark. When I hit next, it shows me the two plan options. If I hover over it, it gives me the total annual cost based on my answers. So again, this is an optional feature. We can turn it off, but it is fairly new. Based on my answers, it's telling me that this plan is the recommended plan, but again, I can choose the other one still. If there's a plan, like a high deductible plan that has an HSA available to it, then that plan will be available next after I choose the high deductible, but only if I choose it, not if I choose the PPO. So nice big buttons. We choose our tier of coverage. We hit enroll in the plan we want, or we hit decline. The census template also has a current coverage tab, current benefits tab, and I'll go over that with you. If we get that loaded, again, it has to be a very specific format, but if it gets loaded into the system, it can show the employee which plan they're in today. Again, optional. This is one of the voluntary products. This is actually Allstate, and they have actually have a video inserted here as well. For time's sake, I'll just wave this one. Another voluntary plan, the accident plan. Okay, here's a flexible spending account. So it works on a kind of a calculator basis. So I can put in the amount per pay period I want to contribute, and then hit calculate. It'll give me the total annual. Or if I know that I'm normally going to do, the maximum, then it'll calculate the per pay period for me. Or I can hit wave. HSA and the FSA are built in this little calculator module. Let's start. Then on the right-hand side, we have the running tally here. So I enrolled in the medical plan. It shows the employer costs, employee costs. I just added the FSA. Dental plan. So again, ideally, this is just a demo, but we'd like to insert a slide or two about the dental plan, maybe from the summary document, and they choose their plan. Again, if they have current coverage, they know which plan they already have, then it'll be defaulted to that plan, but they can change it. If the carrier requirements for medical or dental are that we need to capture a PCP, primary care physician, or primary care doctor, if it's an HMO, or dentist, if it's an HMO, then we can insert that verbiage in as well. The employee will not be able to proceed without us capturing that information. We can put a hyperlink insert there so they can link out to go find their doctor. But the system is rules-based. It will not let the employee proceed or finish the enrollment without capturing all of the data that we need. So if a carrier requires a beneficiary, we have to capture it. If it's a PCP, we have to capture it, so on. The system is built out specific to the employee as well. So if this employee is an executive and they get this class of benefits, or the contributions are different because of this employee status, then that's how the system is built. And that's all identified in the setup process, which I'll review later. This is just a vision plan. Now, when it comes to life insurance and disability, well, first of all, this is a company-paid life insurance. This could be a class situation where you have different classes of employees getting different contributions. This is an employer-paid product, and one of the carrier stipulations is to update a beneficiary. They may have one on file, but they want it updated, so we capture that here. Now, if I have dependents listed in the system, there'll be options here for a beneficiary as well, just for ease of enrollment. I can click on the buttons here and move on. If I don't want them to be the beneficiary, or if they're not listed, I just click the plus sign here and add them in, and it gives you instructions on how to do that here. But the other thing with life insurance and disability is evidence of insurability. So in most cases, a late entrant or someone that exceeds the guarantee issue amount is going to require an evidence of insurability to be completed and be approved by the carrier before they can be covered. So in that current coverage tab of the census, if we gather that information and know that this employee has 100,000, and let's say any increase requires EOI, then we can administer that rule as well. This is important because we can stop deductions for amounts above GI. We can stop passing deductions over for amounts above GI until the employee is approved by the carrier. And that avoids you having to go back and do refunds if they're declined. The other thing is, if we know how much they have, then it's easy to administer the rule. So if they exceed the amount they can get, everything turns red. It tells you you're going to need an EOI completed, and we can dedicate a whole next page to this to identify, here's the form, you can download it, you can print it. We can link out to some carriers online that can complete it there, come back and finish. It all depends on the carrier. With instructions on, how to complete it, where it needs to be sent to if they're printing or downloading. And does it go back to HR? Does it go to the carrier? As well as a deadline. They have to complete it within 30 days or whatever. So this is going to be the case on life insurance and usually disability as well. Beneficiary, again, is a different product than the group life. And then sign and submit page. This says if you're satisfied with your elections, click next. If you want to make some changes, these are actually hyperlinks here on the left, where I can go back and make my change. Otherwise, just hit next. Now this is a draft copy of the confirmation form, a summary of everything that I've elected here, just to make sure that it's accurate. It looks to be. There's my total cost per pay period. And then when we use Solarix, we sign with a PIN code. The PIN code as an administrator is your password. So if you're conducting the enrollment for the employee, or you need to go in and make a change for the employee, you'll use your password as the PIN code. If we're doing employee self-service and they're going in to make the changes, it's a PIN code, which is the last 4 digits of their social and the 2-digit birth year. Couple reasons: it's known to them and it's secure data. I actually just changed my password. One second. Okay, there we go. So I've now completed this employee. If I wanted to, if I had the email set up, the email would go out with the confirmation within about 24 hours. Again, that latest form will be here in the Forms tab within the employee's record as well. So it's, again, very simple to navigate through the system. It's extremely customizable. We can certainly customize it to whatever your rates, rules, etc. are. And let's talk about that process for a moment here. So the process to get started with us, let's talk about worksite products and the setup and what our requirements are, as Teresa alluded to earlier. So in order to engage with our services, we will be looking to implement some new worksite products with a new carrier. There are many carriers that have a Solarix license. Most carriers have a Solarix license, in fact, most worksite carriers. It depends on the type of enrollment you're looking for. If we would be going on site to meet with employees or using our call center, we would be looking at adding 3 new worksite products. And if you have a carrier that's in place, you know, it would be pretty simple to market that out, which I could assist with to choose a carrier that would be competitive. If you're going to be doing self-service, then 2 new worksite products would suffice. If you want to add more, that's fine as well. That's totally up to you. So 2 new worksite products, and the other condition that we have, 2 to 3 new worksite products. The other condition is an active decision enrollment. So if we're going to be setting up the system and offering our services, then we're looking for an active enrollment with no less than 90% of employees through the process. Now, that can mean many things. So if we're doing a combination of on-site call center and self-service, that's what it could be. As long as the employee goes through the system on their own, navigates through and makes their elections, we're looking for 90%. So there's actually a letter of agreement that we'll create with you that outlines the services we're providing once they're determined. And we need signature on that. That is our contract, if you will, that ensures that, you know, you'll help us to see everyone. Those are really the only 2 requirements. Like I said, most, all worksite carriers have an instance of Solarix. They've purchased their own instance of it. So we can certainly easily take your current carrier data, go to market, find competitive rates and plan designs with another carrier, and use their instance of Solarix to build out on. As far as timing goes, once the letter of agreement is assigned, we will assign an account manager on our side. We'll have an implementation call. We'll go through a very detailed agenda where we cover the process. And then we'll give you access to we call it an online workbook. The workbook is basically a document that we use. It's an electronic document that we use to gather the information to build the system. So we need to know those rates, rules, contributions, you know, all the good stuff. We don't really need plan details specifically, but we do sometimes if it's disability or something like that. So here's an example of a workbook. This is just a sample one. So we'll give you NDMA access to this, and it's basic information: client contact information, broker contact, carrier information. This is very important to deliver the files to the carriers and to your payroll vendor. We need the contact information. Once we have that, we actually start reaching out to them. As soon as we have the implementation call, we'll start reaching out to them to find out what test file formats they need, start the testing process while we're building the system, so that post-enrollment, we can deliver that data to them in whatever file type they'll accept. And then perpetually, we'll work with them to determine the perpetual file type. Sometimes it's different than the open enrollment. Eligibility information, this is where you'll identify to us if you have different classes. That's identified here, what your waiting period is, and so on. Payroll information, your payroll vendor information. And then plan details. This is really the heart of the workbook document. The plan details gives us all of those great details on the plan. So if I click on the medical plan, for example. So how many medical plans do you offer? The tax status. Again, very basic questions. Are socials required for dependents? This is all based on the carrier. What's the termination rules? End of year in which they turn 26. This one is a PPO plan. If it were an HMO and a PCP are required, this is where it's identified. So we can insert that link into the system. The plan name, and then the rate, the tiers, the employer costs, total costs, rates and contributions here. One very important part of this section, this is just one plan. This is medical plan 1, is a default coverage. So what happens if the employee does not enroll, which can happen? Some employers say they get nothing. Some say default them to what they had last year. It all depends. That's your choice. But this is how we collect the data to build the system using this online workbook tool. If I go back to the front page, there's actually the census template is here as well, which I have open here down below. And I do want to show you this. It's 3 tabs. So we have the employee information, and we've got a sample person in here. This is just basic demographic information and employment information. If you do have different classes, they'll be identified here under job class. If there's any differences between employees with contributions or classes or departments, anything that needs to be identified in the system, we would need that data here. Some employers need their billing broken out by departments or location. And again, if it's identified here, if it's identified in the system, it can be produced on our report. Spouse and dependent information, this tab is totally optional, but if you have the data, we'll take it. We'll load it up into the system to make the enrollment process a little quicker. And then current benefits. This is what I was alluding to before. Again, this is not a requirement at all. We'll take it, we'll load it. It will help the employee see what they have today. It will also help to administer the evidence of insurability rule, but it's again optional. The only required field is the employee tab. And that's about it. So that's the system, the census template, the implementation process, and the workbook. There is one other thing. We like to help with the employee pre-enrollment and communication of the enrollment event. So as part of our services that we provide, we also will help with the pre-enrollment communication. So that comes in many forms. First of all, and this is again optional, we can do this if you want to, we help with an initial employee flyer, we call it. It's basically an email that you distribute to the employees, or we can do it through the system, but it announces the initial enrollment event. Totally customizable again, but we like to let the employees know the event's coming up. You know, we're 3 weeks out. These are the enrollment dates. This is how you enroll, and here's how you get benefit information. So one of those ways of getting benefit information is we will build a custom website for you, a custom benefits website, I should say. Some employers take us up on this, most do, some don't, because they have their intranet and other resources. But this is again just a demo, but it has our logo and our look and feel, but we would put your information in here. And it just announces the enrollment event. This is when the enrollment's occurring. These are some new plan options. Here's the actual letter that I was referencing before. It's a hyperlink here. And then we have the brochures and plan documents listed here as well. So at any time, pre-enrollment, during enrollment, post-enrollment, the employees can come here and look at the plan documents and get all those details that are stored here. So this is actually a very long document, 6 pages, but this is not something you'd want to insert in the enrollment process necessarily, but good for the employees to have if you choose. If there's a benefits guide that you all create or have created for you, then that can be inserted here as well. But that's what this is for. It's a custom benefits website if you choose to use it. We also like to keep this available for new hires, so we would just change out the dates here. Welcome new hire, these are your benefits. This is the process to get enrolled, and it's just there up all year.
Scott, do you have the capability to do some informational videos with this? Talking people through it, or something more than it just being read?
We don't have those capabilities. We can upload that if maybe DMA has the capability of producing those. We can put here anything that you want. Now, if it's a self-service enrollment and navigation through the system, we do have a video on that. It shows them how to navigate the system. But there's nothing that we really have the ability of going through the benefits for them necessarily. You know, I've actually never been asked that question. That's a good question. Could it be possible? I'm sure that it's possible. Yeah.
People understand, trying to understand an HSA, for example, and,
Right.
they'll read it. Sometimes it's just a matter of a face on the screen, just trying to use simple English and explaining how it works and why,
Right.
why it would be a benefit.
Mark, we do have access to some simplified videos on different things that we could provide you.
Mm-hmm.
They're more, avatar type or very simplistic
They
kinds of
cartoons for all I care, just something that, animation that just, allows people a chance to try to connect and understand. And then if they want to get into more detail, then I'll go read the plan doc or read this, PDF detailed thing. But a lot of people will just look at that and gloss over without, kind of a walkthrough explaining the basics.
Right. Like I said, we do have access to those. It kind of depends on the vendor as well. A lot of the voluntary carriers, for example, would have a little video on what is critical illness or what is accident. So, those can be included as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Scott, let me ask you, so you talk about an active enrollment is required and, 90% of the employees. Now, if for some reason Snowbird were to do the active enrollment for the employee, does that count?
That's a good question. It actually doesn't. What we're looking for is for the employee to go in and make their own decisions.
Okay. And question number 2, then, if 90% of the employees do go in, are there any kind of participation requirements on the voluntary products, or as long as 90% go through, that criteria is met?
Yeah, so the worksite carriers do have participation requirements. We have preferred underwriting with a few of them. You may as well at DMA. Which a couple of ours are aggregate participation, so we don't need it on the case by case level, but as an aggregate of all of our business. So in that instance, we just need minimum participation, which is a state regulation like 5 apps or something like that. We also know that if 90% of the employees go through the process, then participation is never an issue.
Okay, and obviously, first year would be some kind of active enrollment. If the next year, the goal is to have a more passive, that everything stays the same unless you make changes, can that be accommodated? Or is there any problem with that?
Yeah, no, a mandatory enrollment years 2+ is not a requirement at all, or an active decision enrollment is not a requirement. It's up to the employer. If they're making plan design changes, then usually they want to have everyone go through, but it's not our requirement.
Let me ask you this, Scott. 90% of what? I mean, in the winter, we can have 1,900 employees, but the vast majority of them are, part-time on call, seasonal, and we'll have a core of 700-800 employees that are eligible for the core benefits: health insurance, life insurance, dental, etc. Is it counted off of that group, or how we classify those, or is it the full number?
No, it's 90% of eligible employees. So whatever you call that. If your part-time seasonal employees are not eligible for benefits, then they're not included in that number.
Well, historically, we've made them, we've tried, we've let them be eligible if they're interested in supplemental, but they're not eligible in the core. If I could drive 90% off the core, then I'm in, I feel comfortable hitting that number. But if, we got to, expand or, get tighter about who's eligible, we'll have to think that one through a little bit, obviously.
Sure. And I'll work with Teresa on this. It's what we communicate to the worksite carrier when it comes to participation, as I was mentioning. If you're going to have, if you think you're going to have difficulty getting all the employees through because that part-time seasonal population may not go through because it's just the worksite products, then we'll just have to go back to the carrier and identify that it's really 700 or whatever that number is, eligible employees that we're targeting here. And we can help to control that. So I think we want to offer the products to everyone, but our requirement would only be based on those that you identify as eligible. And let's just say eligible for the core benefits. We've done it before. So carve out that group. That's our target 90% audience, and still the rest for benefits if you want to. That's your option.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There is a risk though that if you have 1,900 and those others don't go through at all, then we do have a challenge with underwriting with the carrier.
Because 1,900 is not a reasonable number that are going to participate, or that and a lot of those probably shouldn't be offered because they don't work enough to pay the premium, and then we're left holding the bag. Second piece, and that is generally when we're enrolling people, especially in the core benefits like health insurance and life, we need a way of validating, their legitimate dependents. We'll ask for birth certificates, we'll ask for marriage certificates, or court order, a document that they are a legal dependent. How do you do that in an electronic enrollment process where we're not handling paper or dealing with a person face to face?
Yeah. So that is a feature that's also a relatively new feature, and I don't have it enabled in this demo that I showed you. But it is a feature that is available. We can have that documentation as a requirement. The employee can upload an image. There's two ways of doing it. They can upload it from their desktop, the document, to the system, straight to their record, or there's a QR code and there's an app that goes along with it, and they can upload the photo from their phone. But that document is uploaded into the system. They cannot proceed without it. That's your choice, of course. It's a requirement. They cannot proceed through the enrollment without that data. And it's secure, and it's tied straight to their record. And it's also retrievable by you.
So is there a message, Scott, that if the employee, the enrollment's coming to an end and they're saying, you have not submitted the documentation for dependency, is there some kind of message that would go along with that?
Yes, on that dependent screen, we would just put in custom verbiage there, big red letters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going through an open enrollment, we got the 900, 700, 1,900, whatever the number is. How are we monitoring that we're getting to the 90%, especially as the deadline's coming up on the end of open enrollment?
Yeah.
Do they get done notices, and does the system automatically just keep sending them out reminders every 48 hours or whatever? Or is there something more active that we have to do?
So as part of, when I went into the dashboard there, it showed me here it is. It showed me the enrollment status. So as part of what we do, our account manager will be monitoring the status on a daily basis. They will also be providing to you reporting behind this to identify who the completes, who the incompletes and not beguns are. We can continue that pre-enrollment invitation to enroll message for those that don't enroll as frequently as you want, as frequently as you choose.
Oh, so we can control that messaging.
Yes, it's a customized message. That's right. And I think with this population, if we can get cell phone numbers, the text messaging feature of the system is most effective.
Do you get cell phone numbers, Mark or Sarah?
I lost Sarah. Yeah, we usually have that. In fact, we're finding more and more people that's their home phone number anymore. We're finding confusion with that. That we'd rather have a cell phone than we would a home phone.
Right. Well, most people are getting where they don't even have home phones, so.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions, Mark or Sarah, you have, or anything else that you you haven't seen or haven't discussed?
I mean, as far as the timing goes, because I know you said, okay, if we sign the contract, then we would have an implementation call and we get everything rolling. But I mean, how quickly does that like really happen?
So, well, we kind of worked from your effective date backward. What is the effective date here?
September 1st.
So, yeah.
September 1st. Okay. So we're well ahead of the game now. Post-enrollment, we want to provide the carriers 2 weeks to get their data and to load their data. So back it up to 8/15. Prior to that, that depends on how long you want to keep the system open. Some employers say just 1 week, or we can do whatever you want, basically. From the start date of the enrollment, we back that up. Generally, depending on what type of enrollment we're doing. If we're using enrollers, we need more time. If it's just strictly self-service, we could have the system built in 3 weeks from the date that the workbook is completed. Okay, so once this workbook, all the data is in here from the workbook, it gives us a status of completion of 100% up here. We start building, and we need 3 weeks if it's self-service. We need 4 weeks if it's enroller assisted from the start date of the enrollment. Okay.
What if it's call center? Do you need 3 or 4 weeks?
We would still need 4 weeks because if we're using, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I just said, I'd say enroller assisted call center. Isn't that one and the same?
It is on-site enrollers or call center. That's enroller assisted. Yes. Yeah, we'd still be looking for 4 weeks. The reason is if we're using enrollers, we have a sign-up process. We have an online tool that we use. It was actually on the landing page here. So an employee can click on this button and make an appointment for their future meeting with an enroller, whether on-site or call center. Or if they don't have access to a tool like this, they can call our office and we'll make the appointment for them in 30 seconds. The appointment is a requirement. If we're staffing the enrollment with enrollers, then we need to have an appointment set up for the employees prior to the enrollment beginning. If you're doing a combination, we still need the lead time for the enrollers. But if you're doing a combination, then we don't have to have everyone with an appointment in advance because we assume some are going to go self-service.
Any other questions, Mark or Sarah?
So tell me again.
No,
So
I mean,
we need to be offering 2 to 3 supplemental products. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yes. So the
and by doing that, there's no cost to us for this.
That's correct. That's correct.
Provided we get some enrollment numbers or whatever.
Exactly. That 90% go through.
Okay.
And what happens if 90% doesn't go through?
Well, we haven't had that situation. I guess it could happen.
You don't know our crew.
We'd have to talk to Teresa about it. I mean, it depends. We might implement a PEPM. We really have to discuss that one.
Okay. I mean, of course, we would hope that everyone would go through the process, but I mean, so say if we submit all the stuff and you have emails and phone numbers, since you can keep reaching out to them to, hey, you need to get on and do this. But then we've got the people who, well, I've been on this for 20 years. I don't want to make any changes. I just want to keep what I have. And if they don't do anything, it'll just enroll them with what they currently had, right?
Well, that's your choice. You can tell them they don't have any coverage if they don't enroll.
Okay. So that'd be a way to get people to actually do it.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, you know, that's what you want to do the first year to, you know, just make sure that people go online and make a selection. Now, let me ask you, Scott, is there a way, if someone says, I don't want anything, can they go online and just say, I'm declining all of these benefits and just hit decline once, or do they have to go through each offering?
They would have to go through each one.
Okay, so what happens then on the employer paid? So like if there's employer paid life insurance and the employee is just, I don't want anything, not realizing that's employer paid, if they say they decline it, what happens to that when it's employer paid?
Yeah, most instances of an employer paid product, there is no wait button. They're enrolling in it.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
employer paid, period. Yeah.
Okay, great.
What they really be doing is confirming their data if we load it up, right?
And
Exactly.
we'd be able to collect
There are so
beneficiary
many-
information.
Exactly. There are so many
And you
reasons to get employees to go through.
Well, this is a way to scrub that data and get it cleaned up, for sure.
Exactly.
Demographic information, beneficiary information, contact information, all of that. Exactly.
And you could actually make it, you can't move past that screen without putting a beneficiary in if we tag it that way.
That's correct.
Cool.
Okay, well, Mark and Sarah, I'll be seeing you tomorrow, so we can talk about this some more if you'd like to tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds great.
Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you, Scott, for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it,
Hey.
Scott. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.